And you are listening to member-supported Jazz Radio 90.7 WNCU. And as promised, on the phone today with us will be U.S. Secretary of Education, Mr. Duncan, and he's going to discuss things with our student body president who is here, Stefan Weathers. How are you, Stefan?
I'm great.
And you're ready to talk to Mr. Duncan?
Yes, I am.
Okay, here we go.
All right, so good afternoon, everyone. Like she said, my name is Stefan Weathers. Serve as the student body president here at North Carolina Central University. This week marks the National HBCU Week. This initiative comes from the executive order given by President Barack Obama with the goal of increasing the capacity of HBCUs to provide the highest quality education to students by focusing on 5 core tasks. These 5 core tasks include strengthening the capacity of HBCUs to participate in federal programs, also to foster enduring private sector initiatives and public and private partnerships while promoting specific areas and centers of academic research and programmatic excellence throughout all HBCUs. Also to improve the availability, dissemination, and quality of information concerning HBCUs to inform public policy and practice. To share administrative and programmatic practices within the HBCU community for the benefit of all. And lastly, but surely not least, exploring new ways of improving the relationship between the federal government and HBCUs as a whole. And today I have the pleasure of speaking with U.S. Department of Education Secretary Arne Duncan. Let me tell you more about him. Secretary Duncan is the 9th U.S. Secretary of Education. He has served in this post since his confirmation by the U.S. Senate on January 20th, 2009, following his nomination by President Barack Obama. Secretary Duncan graduated magna cum laude from Harvard University in 1987, majoring in sociology. Before becoming Secretary of Education, however, he served as the Chief Executive Officer of the Chicago Public Schools. And also, Secretary Duncan, I just thank you for your time and welcome you to WNCU.
Thanks so much for the opportunity, and congratulations on being student body president. That's just really, really impressive.
Thank you so much, sir. Well, my first question for you today would be, I know that you were the keynote speaker today at this National HBCU Conference, and one of the conference discussions asked, how do we deliver more HBCU graduates while preserving college opportunity for what is quote-unquote at-risk students? I'd like to ask you the same thing that was asked there.
Yeah, there's no easy answers to these really thoughtful questions. So first of all, we have to continue to make college more accessible and affordable for young people. And the president's goal and my goal is to make sure that if you work hard, if you get good grades, I don't care how much money your family has or doesn't have or what your socioeconomic status is, you have to be able to go to college. And college has gotten more expensive, so that's a challenge. Secondly, we've got to make sure that our high school graduates that are going to college, that so many don't need remedial classes. They truly are college and career ready. And we're seeing lots of states raise standards, which is important. Third, you need universities to build cultures not just around access, but around completion. So what are they doing with bridge programs, with mentoring programs, with student support services to make sure that students, first-generation college goers, whatever it might be, have a chance not just to show up on campus, but to get that degree, get a diploma at the back end. So lots of things we have to do, and we have to do them all at the same time.
Definitely. But also a follow-up to that question. The president actually gave what was considered a major speech on some of the things that you were saying, but specifically college affordability and their value. He gave that speech last month. How will the president's proposal benefit parents and students on the 3 points he outlined? The 3 points were paying for performance, promoting innovation and competition, and also ensuring that student debt remains affordable. And with that question, how can they take advantage of the president's plan?
We're going to take some time and really think about this. We have the best system of universities in the world, 7,000 institutions of higher education. I'm a huge fan of HBCUs. We need HBCUs not just to survive, but to thrive as we move forward. If we want to continue to build the black middle class, if we want to continue to get more teachers of color into our nation's classrooms, HBCUs are a huge part of the answer. But going to college and you're living through this can be a really daunting experience, and parents struggle. What's a grant? What's a loan? Not what the cost is for 1 year, but what's the 4-year cost? What's the graduation rate? What are job prospects if I major in something? And what we wanted to do is provide just a lot more transparency to students and families. There's absolutely, I'm convinced, a right school for every single young person, but we have to help them figure out what that is. And we want to encourage universities, for example, we want them to serve more Pell Grant recipients. We want them not just, again, to enroll them, but to help them graduate. What are universities doing with technology to keep costs down and to keep quality up? And if we can get much better information out to students and parents, if they can go to the universities that are really providing the kind of supports and opportunities they need, we think that makes this daunting, this complicated process much more manageable. That transparency, I think, is critically important.
So you spoke a little bit about the black middle class. So with that being said, is there an understanding in Washington where you are about how important some of these initiatives for HBCUs might be to continue to grow that black middle class, to make sure that it isn't something that's stagnant and something that we look to as, something in the past?
It's crucially important. I worry a lot about the lack of upward mobility today, the lack of social mobility, and the best way to enter the middle class to get a good job is through education. That's the only way to do it. And it's really interesting. We have about 106 HBCUs across the country. Again, about 7,000 total institutions of higher education. But those 106 HBCUs, 6 of the degrees going to African Americans in this country are coming from HBCUs. So they have a disproportionate impact. Places like Xavier University in New Orleans send more African Americans to medical school than does Harvard University. So we should continue to honor the tremendous legacy of the iconic alums of HBCUs. But again, I think the future, they have such a critically important role in continuing to strengthen and build the middle class. Finally, the president's challenged us to lead the world in college graduation rates again. And we did one generation ago. Other countries have passed us by. We've fallen to 12th. And the only way we're going to again lead the world in college graduation rates is if HBCUs are a huge part of this solution.
Definitely. So the theme of this year's HBCU conference that you participated in is Facing Forward, a new paradigm for educating the 21st century student. What is this new paradigm, and how specifically at a HBCU conference does this paradigm even have relevance?
Well, we talked about just some of the tremendous creativity and innovation and creative investment that we're seeing in HBCUs. So we're seeing HBCUs focus on the next generation of great teachers and bringing more black men into the classroom. We're seeing HBCUs work in the international space, building partnerships with universities in China. We see HBCUs building partnerships with the nation of Brazil to bring more students in. I talked about Hampton University. I've been there a number of times, and they have this proton center to treat cancer patients. You see universities moving very heavily into the STEM fields. And so there are so many places where, again, it's not just the legacy, the extraordinary history, but a real thought of what do young people need to go forward, what do they need to be global leaders, and can universities, HBCUs, play a critically important role in helping them to be that next generation of not just national but international leaders. We want to see those opportunities continue to become more and more prevalent, to be the norm rather than the exception.
I would agree. So the Department of Education is holding a series of discussions with student advocates and also leaders to talk about college affordability. Going back to the affordability issue. So how can people contribute to these discussions in an appropriate way? And is there an email address that we can share with our listeners? Is there ways through social media, or just what are the other avenues that people can be involved and contribute to a fruitful discussion?
So we have a website. It's whitehouse.gov/scorecard, whitehouse.gov/scorecard that people can reach out to look at what we're thinking about. And I worry a lot about, across the country, it's almost $1 trillion, about $1 trillion in debt that young people have once they graduate. Because these are ones that are getting through. I worry about the ability to start your own business or to buy a home or even just pay the rent or whatever it might be. The president's talked very publicly. He didn't come from a family with a lot of money. The First Lady, Michelle Obama, great, strong family, but neither one of her parents went to college. She and her brother were the first to go. The president didn't finish paying off his student debt until just a couple of years before he became a senator. So this is a very real challenge across the country. The president is personally committed on this, and we want to challenge universities again to bring down costs. We want to hear from students, hear from family members what we can do to be helpful. And another important piece that we haven't talked about, we have to challenge states to reinvest in higher education. Too many states in tough economic times cut their investment to higher ed, and often when that happens, higher ed then jacks up their tuition. So obviously this is about shared responsibility. We need to continue to invest very heavily at the federal level. States need to do their part, and universities need to do their part. And finally, it's important for your listeners to know that each year we put out about $150 billion, billion with a B, in grants and loans to young people. And we have a website, studentaid.gov, that people should come and visit. And I never want finances to be the barrier, to be the impediment between a hardworking student and their dream of graduating from college, of getting that degree.
Definitely, and increasingly more, it is becoming one of those barriers. So is that a website that you gave where people can find the most information about the college scorecard?
Yeah, exactly. whitehouse.gov/scorecard. Yes. And for information on financial aid, visiting us at studentaid.gov. And as I'm sure you know, but for particularly any high school students listening, the way to access that $150 billion, the way it all starts is when you fill out the financial aid form, the FAFSA form. And what's heartbreaking to me is young families and young people and their families leave literally tens of millions of dollars on the table every single year, money that they should have access to because they simply don't fill out the FAFSA form. So every single young person has to fill out that financial aid form.
So what will the college scorecard actually include when it is implemented in 2015, I believe?
Yeah, we're still really thinking this through, and we're going to take the next couple of months to listen, to go out and to talk to students, talk to parents, talk to university presidents, talk to administration, talk to faculty, and get the best ideas. So we don't know yet what those metrics are going to be, but let me talk about the values that are important. We want to understand our graduation rates going up or down. We want to know, are universities doing, are they seriously committed to serving disadvantaged students, Pell Grant recipients, first generation college goers, English language learners? We want to know, are they maintaining quality while they're doing this? Are graduates able to compete successfully, in the public sector, in the private sector, for jobs once they graduate? And we want to know, what are universities doing to raise quality and increase access and completion while keeping costs down? And it's difficult to do all these things simultaneously, but you have a number of extraordinary universities with great presidents who are doing that. And those are the kinds of places we want to highlight, to spotlight, and to learn from.
I understand. So on a personal note, I would just like to ask, you often speak about following your passion. And so what is your advice to, I guess, today's college student preparing to enter the workforce, or the family deciding, if they can afford to actually send their child to college?
Well, let me take the second one first. Again, it is so important that every single young person today not just graduate from high school, because if you drop out of high school today, you're basically condemned to poverty and social failure. There are no good jobs out there. And some form of higher education, 4-year universities, 2-year community colleges, trade, technical, vocational training, some form of higher education has to be the goal for every single high school graduate in this country. And again, I never want finances to be that barrier that limits access, and we're doing everything we can to reduce college costs. But again, $150 billion that we put out there, please take advantage of that. And even if the family has to sacrifice, as so many families do, and young people work hard through college, and obviously I did that, and other people did that. For the rest of your life, the benefits of having that college degree are just immeasurable. In terms of plans post graduation, I think you really hit the nail on the head in your question. That I think every young person has something that it's their genius, it's their passion, it's what they would do every single day, even if they didn't get paid to do it. You need to try and find what that is and chase it with all your life. So I've had 2 passions in my life. I loved playing basketball, and I've loved education, and those are the only 2 jobs I've ever had. And there's times I made a lot of money, there's times I made very little money, and frankly, that wasn't too important to me. I was getting to do what I love to do. And so rather than just pursuing something for the dollars, pursuing something because someone's telling you to do it, what's that thing? What's unique about you? What do you love to do? And then pursue that with all your heart.
Definitely. Just one more question as well. How can we strengthen the relationship between the kindergarten through 12th grade education and higher education?
Yeah, it's a really, really important one, and we have to get outside our silos. So I challenge universities today to build partnerships, with their feeder school systems and high schools. You're seeing more colleges and HBCUs actually create elementary schools and early colleges on their campus. Right here in D.C., Howard University has a fantastic middle school, a charter school that they've created on their campus to help to create that next generation, that pipeline. You have other schools that have an early college, Fayetteville State, where young people are graduating from high school with their high school diploma and their associate's degree, 2 years of college at the same time. So we have to get outside our silos. Higher ed has to talk to schools and school districts, high schools, middles, and elementaries, and vice versa. These are all our children, and when we as adults fail to talk, young people fall through the cracks. There's just no upside there.
Yes, and I would agree with that. We definitely need more of those type of programs. NCCU, of course, has an early college on our campus as well, and it's very successful.
Programs.
Right.
Yeah, they're phenomenal. We can't do enough of the early college stuff. I just think it's a great thing for young people, not just to get those college credits and start to understand they belong there, but I also think it's not just for high flyers, it's a great dropout prevention strategy as well. Young people might think, well, college isn't for me, it's for someone else, and they start to get that exposure and say, hey, I really belong here. I can do well. And I think not just the academic, but the psychological dividends, the psychological benefits are I think, extraordinarily important.
What advice would you have to the students that they're not the student that is coming into college and they're not about to graduate from college and actually go into the workforce, but they're the student that, for financial reasons, may have not been able to come back to their respective university or college? They may have been going into their senior year, may have been going into their junior year, something of that nature, but they weren't able to come back for financial reasons. What advice do you give to that specific student? Because I know many people that were affected in that way across North Carolina.
Yeah, those challenges are very, very real. I talk to young people and their families who have, a year's worth of credit, or 2 years of credit, or 3 years of credit, whatever it may be, and haven't been able to do it. So it is not easy at all. But again, at the end of the day, getting that college diploma puts you in just an entirely different realm of work possibilities, job prospects, and chances to earn a decent income. So whether it's going to school part-time, working full-time, whether it's going to school full-time and working full-time, which is extraordinarily difficult, these are real sacrifices, find a way to not walk away. And it's interesting that we have many African-American young adults who have some college but didn't graduate, and I really want to attract them back to universities to complete their degrees. And so none of this is easy. It's a lot of hard work. It's a lot of sacrifice. And over the short term, that's very difficult. But for the rest of your life, for the next 40, 50, 60 years, nothing is more important than having that college diploma.
So you spoke about basketball and how you love that. So what advice specifically would you give to our student athletes that may be listening in or may have an opportunity to listen to this once we have it recorded? What advice would you give to them about balancing the academics and their actual craft with their sport, with their respective sport?
Yeah, well, I was lucky growing up playing that I always had really helpful friends and role models and mentors who talked to me. And, my dream was to play in the NBA. And everyone said to me, chase that dream, but catch an education. And so I was always a student first and an athlete second. I wasn't good enough to make it in the NBA. Got cut when I tried out. I was very fortunate to play professionally for 4 years in Australia and know how lucky I was to have that opportunity. It was absolutely amazing. But the books always came first. And what was interesting for me, I actually always got my best grades during the season because I was either, in class or in the library or practicing. And, having that discipline, understanding your priorities, yes, chase that dream, love it. I still love to play. I still love the camaraderie of being on a team. But the books have to come first. Books have to come first. You have to have your priorities in line. And I saw too many people I grew up with who were great players, much better than me, didn't quite make the NBA, didn't get their diploma, and ended up back on the streets of Chicago with very little to show for it. And that was always really heartbreaking to me.
Got you. So what is the role of the Department of Education in the federal government and HBCUs?
We want to do everything we can to support HBCUs, not just within our Department of Education, but administration-wide. So we host the HBCU initiative in our department, but we've seen Department of Energy start to do some interesting things with HBCUs. We've seen NIH, the National Institute of Health, start to do some really interesting things with HBCUs. And we want to continue, again, not just within the Department of Ed, but administration-wide, do everything we can to create opportunities for HBCUs to continue to grow, to thrive, and to evolve. And again, some of the things we're seeing in the STEM areas, math, science, technology, engineering, the medical fields, some fantastic partnerships are starting to emerge.
Absolutely. So I just have one last question that I would like to ask. What advice do you give to the student leadership on various HBCU campuses, just concerning their student bodies and increasing the climate of their student bodies intellectually, and also in the academic realm and the social environment as well? Just trying to build that presence. What advice do you give to those student leaders?
Well, first, again, I just want to commend you on your leadership and stepping up to be student body president. It's pretty spectacular. For me, the big thing is how we make graduation from HBCUs the norm. And many universities, the graduation rates are improving, are going the right direction, but I don't think there's a college president anywhere across the nation who thinks their graduation rate is high enough. So whatever student body leaders can do to help build a culture of support, to help build a culture where, again, the goal isn't to enroll, the goal is to get that piece of paper at the back end. Summer programs, bridge programs, internships, Big Brother programs, the juniors and the seniors, you guys are going to do well. You've made it through the tough times. So many folks who drop out those freshman, sophomore years. So what can you do as student leaders to build that culture and to have your voice heard, to make sure that folks who are coming to the university have a chance to complete their degree and fulfill their dreams?
Absolutely. So I think they're telling me that, our time is pretty much up. One thing I would like to say is that at NCCU, we have, of course, our new chancellor, and one thing that she's big on is equal excellence. So, and that includes increasing our graduation rates and also making sure that graduation is the norm, like you said. And I think that is excellent advice for all student leaders across the country, that, we should be playing an active role in helping make sure that our students are graduating in 4 years, or in the amount of time that it should take them, which is 4 years. So I just like, absolutely. So I would just like to thank you for your time and speaking with us today. And hopefully next time we can actually have you, here at NCCU on our campus.
Invite me down. Would love to do that. And again, just appreciate the hard work of everybody there. And please hold me and my team accountable for being a good partner as we try and take educational opportunity to a different level in this country. And
we will definitely do that. Okay. And I definitely enjoyed our conversation. So thank you once again.
Day.
All right.
Thanks so much for the opportunity.
No problem. And then once again, I am Stefan Weathers, and I'd like to just wish everyone a great day. And all the WNCU listeners, have a great day, and I hope you enjoyed our conversation. Thank you.
You are listening to member-supported Jazz Radio 90.7 WNCU. We return to the music.